Welcome to the Life by Design podcast with Jessalyn and Brian, your real estate investors and strategists to help you build your wealth. Discover lifebydesign.ca has a quiz for you to see what kind of real estate investor are you. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about overestimating your time and underestimating your value. So Brian, did you want to kind of intro into why we wanted to go into this topic?
Because every real estate investor does it. They always underestimate the amount of time, and they always don't include their own true value into the situation.
So when you say overestimating your time, do you mean like, I'm going to buy a property, I get the keys, it's not all just smooth sailing from there?
No, not at all. We are not fix and flippers. But fix and flip is like the most kind of typical example of where your time gets overestimated. And the way that it looks is like you think, you buy a property, it's going to take 3 to 6 months to renovate, and it ends up taking 9 or 12, and you have to carry all those costs throughout the 9 or 12 months, not just like the renovation costs, but like your holding costs, the interest on whatever you're paying for the loan, and everything else like utilities and insurance, everything. So yeah, typical, super simple example of like a way that real estate can like vastly underestimate the time that it takes. Yes,
I do remember because we obviously invest in suited properties as we've discussed before, but 2 of those that we bought were not turnkey. And so we had to have the basements renovated, and some of those took longer than we had anticipated.
Yeah.
And so of course, like you said, we had to hold it for 2 months longer for the holding costs, not to mention the investment costs, because is more money to get the changes needed that we needed.
Yep.
But yeah, there was definitely more room for error that I think we should have estimated in than we did originally.
Yeah, the first one was definitely the roughest because we were a little bit naive back then and trusted contractors to actually do what they were supposed to be doing. Yes. And although the quality of the work ended up being good, the timing of it was not as good. And we didn't know to be on top of the contractor as well back then.
Yeah.
So I think, if I remember correctly, that one took 5 months and it should have took 3. So we got lucky in that sense that, I've heard horror stories where it should have taken 3 months and it takes 12. We were not that bad, but still, that's an extra 2 months of interest. That's an extra 2 months of utilities. That's an extra 2 months where you don't have rent collected. All that 2 months adds up into like a lot of cost in a very short period of time.
It does. And there's of course insurance and property tax. Those don't stop just because you don't have a renter in there. But like you said, we don't focus on fix and flips, but we do focus on buy and holds and renters. And so the time trap in there, where would you say that really takes your time that people may not really be aware of if they don't currently buy and hold?
When it comes to renters?
Yeah.
There's the usual of like not really controlling your time. Renters are going to text you or message you or email you, whatever communication you have, like at any time they want, and you might have to deal with it, or you might have to be smart enough to like somehow manage that in some way. But filling a property, that's probably the biggest time sink for me and for probably property managers as well.
Right.
And that's why they charge, right? Like that, they charge, their flat fee, but then they charge on top of their flat fee very often a filling fee, like to fill that rental, because it takes a heck of a lot of time. In our market right now, Sherwood Park, it's very, very, very little rental available here. So when we put something out for rent, a lot of people apply to it, and you have to respond and manage and book and like do all these different things to get these people to view your suite so that you can actually have a renter. People think it's going to be easy. It takes a tremendous amount of time just to fill like an hour or 2 hour slot for viewing.
Right. And then of course, when you do have your candidates narrowed down, you have to go through the background checks, and that's not necessarily just a security check, right? That could be checking records, whatever we go through. I know some people go through their social media just to make sure like they are who they say they are and they're not like big partiers if that's not what you're looking for. So the time does add up.
It does, yeah. Luckily, with the online systems nowadays, the actual checks take quite like they're quite quick.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but scheduling, man, that's where it comes down to. Scheduling, like trying to fit all those tenants in so that you're not like using up all your weeknights, your weekends, and trying to get them into a tight period. You and I are very big on calendar, so like I think we spend probably more time in our calendar scheduling and making sure our schedule is proper than your average person.
Right.
And then when it comes to like booking all of the viewings, that just goes to a whole nother level of scheduling. Yeah. So honestly, people underestimate the amount of time it's going to take to even just get someone in there to view the property, never mind have them as a renter and all the things that are going to come along with that.
Right. So you selected your renter. You've got obviously your move-in inspection, your move-out inspection from the previous one. That takes time. But you've got your renter. Now, I mean, I know because obviously I'm in the business, but you got the lease to prepare. You've got maintenance that's going to come up. These are all time-consuming activities that, if you're not aware of, can really eat at your day and impact what you've got going on in your life.
Yeah. And it follows the general rule of like when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
So like depending on how many properties you have, you'll have like nothing for 3 months, and you'll think, hey, this is great. It's super easy to manage a property, and then all your properties fall apart in the same month. So people underestimate their time when it comes to that too. Just how much of a buffer do you actually need in your like schedule to manage all the unknowns that are going to come along in your property.
Right.
We tell a story about like, you know, a friend of ours having a goal to have 25 properties, and he was a little bit inexperienced at the time. And I said, you know, at some point you are going to have 3 furnaces go in the same month across those 25 properties.
Right.
And he kind of laughed and said, ha ha ha, like, yeah, right. And it's like, no, like statistically it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And he wasn't building in all the buffer he needed. I mean, I was taking the worst case scenario in his properties, but imagine all the little things that are going to happen outside of those 3 furnaces going on. Like, you know, sinks happening, little leaks happening. Appliances, yeah. Like all kinds of little things about the property that are going to go wrong. And if you have 25 of them, you're going to have that consistently in your time budget. And if you don't scale for that, like scale your budget for that in time, you're gonna have a bad time.
Right. And so, I mean, you talk about maintenance in there. It's one thing for a furnace or 3 to go, but there's other maintenance involved, right? And there's the, like you said, an appliance goes, the sink leaks. Those are, I guess, situational. They happen when they happen. But there's things you can plan for that are maintenance, like needing to replace the shingles, replace the windows, whatever that might be. But that's all part of being a real estate investor and owner.
Yeah. And a lot of people who get into the game initially, they try to do it themselves. And I remember I did that in our first couple condos. And after the 5th trip to Home Depot for where I'm looking for some little nuance in the valve that I need to connect to the toilet, and I can't find the right valve, I was like, screw this. Like a plumber at $100 and whatever an hour is like way more worth the value than me spending days trying to like fix this problem that a plumber can more or less just walk in and like fix it in half an hour to 2 hours. People need to realize that like their time is worth something, and that they shouldn't be doing the maintenance unless you are a plumber, of course,
right?
And you own real estate, then go ahead, do it yourself. But if you don't have those skills, hire it out, because like your time and your effort is not worth it compared to the cost of just building it into your real estate portfolio and making sure your real estate portfolio can manage those costs for those plumbers, for those whoever people that you need to come in and manage your properties.
Yeah, I remember very well in our first few years of owning real estate and you wanting to do it all for the maintenance and the repairs. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to stop you as you're watching YouTube videos on how to fix things. And I'm going, really? That's what you want to put your time in? But again, sometimes we have to learn our lessons the hard way. And then you came home one day and you're like, I'm going to redo the floor in one of our condos. I'm like, you're going to what? Like, how much time is that going to take you? And I'm pretty sure you're like, well, me and a buddy, we're going to get together. We're going to buy it all and we'll get it done in a day, 2 max. I'm like,
it took 4 days. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to let you dream that dream. And then 4 or 5 days later, you're going to realize it takes way longer because it's not your skill set. And so you had to cut and sometimes recut and, relay and then go back and fix things. Whereas if you just hired it out, that person probably would have for sure had done in a day or two, but that's their skill set. They're used to it. But for a first timer, it never goes as planned because you don't know the things you don't know until you're in the midst of it. And it took a few years, but eventually you did get to a space where you're like, I'm just hiring this out.
You said it. Like, you don't know what you don't know. When you're inexperienced and you're just starting out, like, you can't see the value of like those hundreds of dollars that you're paying the other person. When you think, it's not that hard, like I can do it myself. Now I hire out everything and I have a trusted set of contractors where I pretty well don't even have to show up to my properties. I can just manage the tenant and manage the contractor and get them to show up at the same time and the problem gets solved. But it's funny. You say you saw that back in the time, but now that I'm actually spending more money but less time, sometimes you hear the expense budget and you're like, oh my God, our properties take that much to maintain, but it's like built into the portfolio now, right? And that's the key. So yes, it looks expensive, and yes, you might have a better performing real estate portfolio if you did it yourself, but like, why would your real estate portfolio not perform without it, right? Like, do you have to do that in order to make your real estate portfolio perform? If you have to do that, then you maybe are not doing real estate quite properly.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to value your time. Mm-hmm. And I know we speak on this a lot just based on all of the different things we have going on. And we really will evaluate, like, okay, if I'm going to take something new on, what's it going to cost me? Yep. Like, from a time perspective, not necessarily just like a monetary expectation, and to figure out, okay, what does that look like and is it worth it? But I still remember a story one of our mentors shared with us not too long ago. Last fall it was, where he had a property here in Edmonton. He's not here. He lives in BC, and he flew in to paint his property. And it took him all weekend. And in his words, he probably used more explicit than I did, it was a crappy job. And he had to hire someone to come and repaint it anyways. But you think of the cost of his time to do that, the flight, obviously. I mean, even if it was only a few $100 and a few $100 for paint, but then you had to pay someone to do it anyways. But we think we can do it all, and then we do it, and then we look and go, wow, that is a crappy job. I am not good at painting, or I'm not good at laying floor, whatever it is. And it's like, really? I could have saved myself X amount of money that I spent already and just put it towards a contractor who knows what they're doing. It's their time. You get to be at home with your family or doing out what you do best with your time, which might be meeting other investors. It might be working at your contract. However you make money, make the money and then pay someone to do the jobs that you're not good at or don't want to do. Yeah,
it is a mental muscle you have to build. Because I mean, like, we've been there. And the funny thing is that I know millionaires and very rich people who will still go and do the paint themselves. Yeah. Right. But they're absolutely not accounting for the mental cost. They're not accounting for like their mental health. They're not accounting for the time with their family and their friends. Yeah. Like, all this stuff is just secondary to like saving that $100 or that $1,000. And often it's not worth it. Like, it again, build it into your portfolio so that you know you don't have to deal with it, right? Yeah. That's the key is like, make sure the real estate can handle those things, because eventually you're going to not want to do it. Same thing with property management, same thing with maintenance. You're eventually not going to want to do those things. Make sure the real estate portfolio can handle it. Yeah, and I think that lends well into like lost opportunity costs. Like, there's the cost of actually doing it versus not, but then there's the cost of the lost opportunity. So if you're really good at going in and finding investors so you can buy more properties or whatever it is that makes you money,
as an independent and you're good at it, go do that. Because the 2 days, for example, it might take you to lay a floor or paint a whole condo could be 2 days you're out bringing in $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 from investors versus the $2,000 or $3,000 it's going to cost you to have that place fixed, whatever it is you need remodeled.
Yeah. So it's just not worth it. Like, but I mean, people have to learn those lessons. Like, you experience burnout. I experience burnout.
Yep.
We both experience like mental health problems of different sorts. And it's because we just push ourselves too far and we're not ready, either not ready for it, haven't built that mental muscle, or we're not, or primarily from our experience, we just didn't value our time properly. Yeah. And like that right now, depending on who you follow, right? There's a guy named Dan Martell, and his calculation is that if you can outsource it for a quarter of the value of your time, then outsource it. So we've done real estate for a long time right now. My dollars per hour on real estate is about $500 an hour. So every hour I spend on real estate, we will earn about $500 in the portfolio. So if I can rent, or not rent, but if I can hire something out for $125 an hour, I need to hire it out for $125 an hour.
Agreed.
And most contractors, most plumbers, most people are around that mark. So there's absolutely no reason for me to be doing any type of maintenance on my property. And I would challenge all the investors out there that if you really looked at your portfolio, you should be able to sit in the same bucket that I'm in very, very closely, and you should be able to hire things out. And again, if you can't, let's review your portfolio because like, why can your portfolio not handle the maintenance, and why can it not handle the costs that should be in a real estate portfolio?
Yeah. And I want to just touch briefly on the mental aspect of that. And I say that because when we look at things like, say, for example, if I had to go paint a condo, I would be so angry. I don't enjoy it whatsoever. Just like I didn't enjoy managing tenants, as we've openly discussed before. And if I have to do it, there's an extra layer on top of just doing the work and the cost monetarily, financially. There's the cost mentally, because now I am irritated or annoyed that I've got to spend 2 days, for example, if that's what it is, to paint something or lay flooring, which I hate. And then afterwards, that's going to impact how I feel, how I'm dealing with my family, my kids, my husband, anyone around me, and then going into the work. Imagine I spent the whole weekend painting and then I had to go to work. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think we think of those extended costs to our family, our colleagues, our coworkers, our friends, because of how we're portraying, because we chose to save $2,000, for example, instead of having painters come in. And I did it, because I've not done this, because I knew up front, don't get me to paint, it'll be ugly. But it was like, I knew the mental cost of how angry I would be having to do something I don't enjoy, like, at all. Yeah. But a lot of us don't. We're just like, we get her done, we get it out, and then we deal with our spouses who may not be in a good space for a day or two while they're getting over that, what they value. They lost their time. They had a whole weekend that they lost, that they could have been with the kids, and they could have been playing games, or they could have, whatever it is they were going to do. Instead, they were painting or renovating. And so that there's a cost with that anger and that negativity that arises in your mental state when you do something that you don't love. Yeah.
I think we live in a society where some of that is expected, and it's also expected that you kind of just suppress it. But I think if you got really honest with yourself, you'll find that there is a cost to it, and the suppression that you're doing on that cost is really not helping you, and you're just ignoring it. You really got to get honest with yourself about making sure that you have time for you. And it's not a selfish thing. Having time for you is putting on the oxygen mask first, so that you can take care of everything else.
Yeah. I love that you said, get honest with yourself. And I know we've talked about this in another episode previously, but that is something we both had to do. And I absolutely did, because I could do everything. And the old Jess would say yes to everything. And there was no one telling me I couldn't do it because I knew I was smart enough to learn the skill set. But back then I wasn't smart enough to understand that I didn't want to learn the skill set. And that was the difference. And before I'd fight, it'd be like, no, I got this. I'll show you I can do it. Now it's like, no, I don't want to do it. Let's find someone else. Right? It was, for me, it was a bit of attitude and it's definitely a mental shift, but it's like just standing in that I know what I want and what I don't want and owning that and being like, okay, this is not for me and I'm okay with it. I'm okay to hire it out and go do me time, whatever that looks like, right? Whereas before I felt like, no, I should be doing this and I should be taking care of that and I should reduce my costs, but then get rid of that should word and be like, well, what do I enjoy? What makes me happy? What makes my family happy, right? And in the end, overall, health-wise, it's better for the whole. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, should. If you have a lot of shoulds in your real estate portfolio, maybe real estate's not right for you, right? You really need to you have to want to do the real estate.
Yes.
All of it. And so like if laying floor and properties and fixing and flipping is like your happy place,
right,
go ahead and do that. But I would challenge everybody out there that most people, that's not their happy place. Like for the large majority of the population, fixing and flipping is not a happy place. It's stressful. There's a lot of time constraints. There's a lot of money involved. It is not a place that most people would want to be. Same thing with tenants. Same thing even with just buying a property. Like we know lots of people who are buying their first property and they are stressed, like super stressed. And there is nothing going wrong. Everything is going well, but it's an unknown, right? So if you're in that boat of like you have a lot of shoulds, there's different ways to do real estate for you.
Agreed. And I love this phrase. Stop shooting all over yourself.
Stop shooting all over yourself.
And now, it doesn't mean that real estate's not for you. You just maybe need to find a partner.
Doing real estate yourself is not for you.
Right. Find a partner like I did. Just kidding. You explained it very well because I loved looking on MLS. I loved looking at houses, going to the properties. Mm-hmm. That was not stressful for me whatsoever.
Nope.
I did not love managing tenants, but yet you have learned how to master it, right? So we've partnered on that journey and we've realized what works for us. We do well, and what doesn't, we're okay to let our partner do. So same thing to our audience. If you know you want to be in real estate because it's the best investment ever, but find partners that can complement what you don't like. And it's a win-win for everyone around. And that comes not just with real estate, but the skill set of it. Right. And I know we talk about the skill set, like we talk about repairs and maintenance because that's an obvious. But like if your skill set isn't, say, negotiating, then maybe you find a partner who's really good at finding the deals. Yep. And maybe you become the money partner, or maybe you're handy. And we need handy people to be partners to help fix the properties at a better expense or who can understand the expense of that. Right. There's always a give take in it, and there's always a win-win. You just got to make sure that you're owning what you can and can't do, and you're willing to let go of what you're not good at and trusting that your partner will be.
Yeah, and own it before you step into it, because otherwise you're going to go in blind and you're going to be in for a world of pain after you buy the property. Yes. And we know lots of people who went into it with big starry eyes, and then they got into the actual real estate and it was everything they didn't want. So you really have to, like I said earlier, be honest with yourself before you even put an offer down, before you even start looking at properties. Be honest with like yourself on, is real estate right for me?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, doing it yourself right for me. Like we've talked about, there's partners, there's funds out there that you can invest into that are where you can invest directly into real estate, all kinds of things other than doing it yourself.
100%. Mm-hmm. And I know we covered a lot today, but if you were to pull out the top takeaway of what we discussed today, what would it be?
Measure your time and value your time, and actually measure and value it in a real number. Put a real number to it so that you actually know, like, am I worth $80 an hour, $100 an hour, $200 an hour? So that you can separate out the what you should be doing and what you should not be doing.
Yeah. And so I agree. Valuing your time is key and it's critical. And if you value your time and say, let's use 100 because it's an easy number. If you value your time at $100 an hour and you could hire a painter for 30, don't devalue yourself based on that. Just like, my value is $100 an hour and it's going to take me X amount of time, whereas I could hire a painter. Just outsource. It'll save you a lot of stress. It'll save you money in the long run.
Yeah. And when you value your time, be honest. Don't undervalue yourself purposely. And the large majority of people out there, including ourselves, tend to like put ourselves at a lower value than we really are. And that will just hamper your efforts going forward, because now you think you're worth less than you actually are, and you won't hire out the proper people and you won't make those the proper actions. So like, really value yourself is what it comes down to.
You got it. Mm-hmm. Thanks for listening to the Life by Design podcast with Jessalyn and Brian. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and tune in to all of our episodes. Also go to discoverlifebydesign.ca and take our quiz to see what kind of real estate investor are you. Until next time, have a great one.